Welcome back to Let's Yell at Tyler the Floor Dresser. No, our first guest is a local filmmaker whose new project is a docu-series that focuses on serial killers. I'm obsessed. It's available on the streaming platform Fox Nation. Here's a clip from The Killer Next Door.
Sometimes he put a fake cast on, which he told me made him look injured and less intimidating. Ed told me he had this maneuver where he would get a tube of chapstick and put it in his hand. And then as he reached over to let the co-ed into the car, at the same time, he would drop that tube of chapstick in this press grip handle. This would prevent the door from opening from the inside. Once the victim was in the car, she could not get out.
I made that a challenge, almost like a chess game. And the more clever they got about checking me out ahead of time, the more clever I got.
There were times where he would kill someone, go to a bar, have a drink or two, while the victims' bodies were in the car, and he would come out and he would pop the lid of the car and look at them as his pride and joy.
Please welcome back to the show the showrunner for The Killer Next Door and the senior vice president at Committee Films, our good friend Maria Oz. Hi, welcome back. Okay. I love these, and my mom who's watching is obsessed too. I love these true crime. I love these docu-series. But, you know, each one is kind of done differently, and watching that clip, I can kind of guess how you did it. Are there recreations? Is it what's the format of this one?
Right. So I would say this is a docudrama series, but it's really interesting in how we did this. So the focus is on John Douglas, who is the actual mind hunter. So for people who've heard of the Mind Hunter,
that's right.
the Netflix
That's right.
series,
Yes.
the scripted series. So this is sort of the real documentary kind of version of that, but there are still dramatizations in there. And what we've done is we've taken John Douglas, who was kind of I guess he goes by kind of FBI's architect of criminal profiling. So he really was one of these criminal profilers in the beginning who kind of started this whole thing. We take his stories, his personal accounts of meeting all these serial killers. We put him back kind of in time observing some of these events going on, and then you get to learn about little details like you saw with the chapstick, you know,
Yeah.
you might not have known about how some of these killers operated.
In your research, what surprised you the most? Was there an element of it? Was there a character trait in some of these killers? What made you kind of go, maybe in an afternoon or night, go, oh, didn't think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's the most interesting is how long a lot of these guys are able to operate without anyone knowing,
yeah.
You know, and they really do blend in, and, you know, that gets at the title, The Killer Next Door. You know, how do you really know? I think that a lot of what John Douglas and, you know, the FBI's Behavioral Sciences Unit has done is really bring to the forefront what some of those things are that these guys have in common. There's a murder triangle. Have you heard of the murder triangle?
No.
Homicidal triangle. So 3 things that a lot of serial killers have in common are bedwetting past sort of a young age, pyromania, so wanting to set fires, that's another one, and animal cruelty, like extreme animal cruelty.
Fascinating, because I have heard of the animal cruelty aspect,
yes.
But I had never heard of the bedwetting and the really?
Pyromania.
And what's
yep.
it called?
The murder triangle or the homicidal triangle.
And more than a few of these guys fit that triangle.
Right, and that's one of those things that when, you know, it's hard to remember now because there's so many shows, so many things about criminal profiling and the mind, right, of serial killers and other criminals. But, you know, John Douglas really was one of those pioneers to study this, and that homicidal triangle, those commonalities is one of the things that came out of a lot of that early research.
Because one of the things I loved about, and again, you guys should go watch it, the Mindhunter, the show, but one of the things that I learned from there that made me go, I didn't even think about that, I was born in '74, is the fact that before him, there really wasn't even a unit within the government to track these types of individuals. Is that true?
That's true. And so I think one of the cutting edge things and how this all got started really was, you know, the FBI and John Douglas was teaching classes, supposed to go and teach road schools to different law enforcement agencies about what to look for, you know, and things with crime scenes and whatnot. And he's like, well, I want to go talk to some of these actual offenders. Like, what can we learn from these people? And that clip you saw was a dramatization of his experience with Ed Kemper. So Ed Kemper was the co-ed killer in California, and brutally murdered and dismembered a number of different college co-eds, but he went and sat down and talked with him and learned an enormous amount, which is what led to this study of 36 serial killers where he went around the country to talk to different people. So The Son of Sam, David Berkowitz, that's an episode that we've done. We have an episode on John Wayne Gacy. There's just a lot of different interesting aspects of those cases.
Because I think the public, they see Silence of the Lambs, and and that's probably most people's introduction to this universe is, I think that's fair to say. I think people see it as like, oh, obviously the FBI is going to go talk to a figure like Hannibal Lecter to help solve the cases. Right. But it's not true. The FBI, the older guys in the FBI found no value in doing that. Is that true?
Right. It really was kind of that advent, I would say, of this program in the 70s. And that is also really where the term serial killer starts to get used more often. And a lot of people ask, well, what's the definition of serial killer? Sometimes you'll hear it's, someone who kills more than 2 people, sometimes more than 3 people. I think the actual definition by the FBI right now is more than 2 people. But yeah, there was a time we didn't have any of that study going on. And as for Silence of the Lambs, that particular killer is based somewhat on a character.
Ed Gein?
No,
yeah.
But also there's a guy named Gary Heidnik who would keep women torture them in a pit that he dug in his Philadelphia basement. That's one of the episodes that a lot of people probably may never have heard of that case. But there's just, there's a lot. It's very, very dark, but there's a lot to learn, I would say, from these people. Is
it hard? We got to go, but is it hard when you're doing this research because it is dark? Is it hard to snap out of it and then go to Subway and get a sandwich at the end?
I've been doing it for a while,
yeah.
So for me, I can make that distinction, but there's always moments that are gonna get you.
Okay. Well, continued success. Michelle is also responsible for our good friend, the laundry guy, too. So
yes,
we love you, Maria.
Yes.
We love
All
you.
Right,
The Killer Next Door is available on the streaming service Fox Nation. So please go watch it. I will be as soon as the show is over. Believe me. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Back in a moment. Oh, Maria, thank you so much. How many episodes?